Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum class. I'm your English teacher Zia. I hope that you're doing well. Students, I welcome you to English grade 11. I hope that now you have been following all those previous lectures. Now we are on unit number 2. We are going to cover a student's learning outcome on rhyme scheme and figurative language. Let's see how our SLO looks like. So students who have joined us online over here, who's sitting over here, and if you're watching on YouTube, if you have any kind of question, you can post it in the comment box below. And if you want to respond to my questions during this video lesson, you can do it as the same way. So students, let's begin by reading our students' learning outcome. Today, we have an SLO which says, identify rhyme schemes and figurative language in poems. So, we are going to see the rhyme scheme and also a term, a kind of language which we call figurative language. We are going to see these two things in a poem. We will talk about what is a poem, what are the different elements of a poem, etc. Now, what another student's learning outcome is merged with this one because they are of the same kind and of the same nature. Now, it says, evaluate how authors use language, including figurative language, considering the impact on the reader. Now, we are coming across with the term figurative language twice in these two SLOs. Now, let's see that how the figurative language that includes your different figures of speech, when a poet or an author uses it in his work or her work, how does it impact the people who are reading it? Yes, figurative language has a very good impact and it has a very powerful impact on the readers. First, we'll deal with the rhyme scheme and we will come up with, then we will be talking about these different terms and see how we can achieve it. Now, students, I want your attention. I hope that you know that in every language there are prose, which means text that is written in a simple form, and there is poetry, poems. In Urdu we also have poems. In English we have poems, and it is different than prose. Let's see what it is. Now, how do you think, or why do you think that poems are different than prose? What is a prose? इसको हम उर्दू में नसर कहते हैं. Poetry is शायरी. So, now, tell me about the difference. How do you think that these two types of texts are different? You can come up with your answer, students. Now, you can also make a column, make a table and identify the differences between a prose and poetry or poems. It's a very good quick brainstorming session. So I hope that now you are very clear about our topic, which is specifically focused on poetry, on poems. We will see that what is a rhyme scheme in a poem. How can we identify that rhyme? How can we make a rhyme scheme out of it? And how we can identify different kinds of figures of speech or figurative language, poetic devices in our poems. Now, let's see what is a poem. Students, you are very much aware of this. Let's revise it and recall what a poem is. It's a piece of writing in which the expression of feelings and ideas is given intensity by particular attention to diction, and diction sometimes involves rhyming, rhythm and imagery. Now, poetry evokes our emotions and feelings, students, and the language is not normal. The language used in poems, in poetry, is having a rhythm, a musicality in it. It has a rhyme, matching words at the end. It has a form, a structure, a meter, and there are different kinds of poetry. And there are also different kinds of rhyming schemes and so much. So there is a whole world of these terminologies and we need to understand them. Now we are going to talk about rhyme, rhythm, and also imagery. Imagery comes in the figurative language. Now let's reread our definition. It's a piece of writing which the expressions of feelings and ideas given intensity. It means poetry is very powerful. It has intensity. It has a very good impact. It leaves a good impact on the reader more than different kind of prose. So it means its intensity is much more than that, and we focus on the choice of words, diction. We focus on the vocabulary, how the poet actually composed a poem. What is the rhyme scheme? How we can actually identify different elements in our poems. So this is the purpose, and this is what a poem is. It has a rhythm, it has a rhyme scheme, it has imagery, powerful language, and a very good diction. Now, here, students, before you is a poem by Robert Frost. The title is The Road Not Taken. I hope that you're familiar with this poem. It's a very famous piece of literature. Now you can see that this is not written in a normal prose way. Rather, it's written on one side of the page. The lines are shorter than prose, followed by commas and different kinds of stanzas. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 4 stanzas over here from the poem The Road Not Taken, and they are composed of different verses. We call these lines verses. So this is what a poem looks like. Now, there are more certain things that I need you to understand, students. Let's look at them. All these elements, these things, when they are coming together, they make a poem. Now let's see what they are. There is a structure of the poem, form, there is a meter, rhyme and rhyme scheme, sound and rhythm. There is a subject in the poem, a speaker, figurative language, poetic devices, theme, tone, mood, and syntax of the poem. So all these elements, these components, they come up together and make a poem. If you want to create a poem of your own, if you write a poem expressing your feelings and emotions about any incident, event, or any experience, or you want to give a moral message through your poem, you can make the poem and you can write it using these and understanding these different elements of poems. You need to know about what is a structure of a poem, what is a rhythm, how the rhyme scheme works, and so on. But today we are just going to see how the rhyme scheme works, how we can identify it. So students, I hope that now you have understood that what is a poem, its importance, how it is made, the kind of language, the kind of elements and ingredients that we add in order to make a very good poem. Now, let's talk about rhyme scheme. Scheme means this is a pattern. We need to understand the rhyme pattern of a poem. A rhyme scheme, my dear learners, is the pattern according to which end rhymes, the end words, rhymes located at the end of lines or verses, are repeated in works or poetry. Rhyme schemes are described using letters of the alphabets. A, B, C, D, all those letters, they can be used to represent and describe the rhyme scheme, such that all the lines in a poem that rhyme with each other are assigned a letter, one letter, so we can identify the rhyme. It should be beginning with the letter, the first letter of the alphabet, A. So it means that the rhyme scheme would look like alphabets. There are alphabets and they are according to the rhythmic pattern, the rhyme scheme of a poem. Every poem can have different rhyme scheme. Some generic, some templates of poems like a couplet or quatrain or a sonnet, they are of the same kind, the same nature, because that's what makes them a different kind of poetry. So every different poem, every different kind of poetry, students, has a different rhyme scheme. And if you follow that rhyme scheme, you can create a poem according to that kind or type of poetry. Now, let's look at this example. A 4-line poem in which the first line rhymes with the third line and the second line rhymes with the fourth line. They has the rhyme scheme A B as in the poem. Let's look at this very easy poem. Roses are red, violets are blue, Shakespeare's is dead, I had no clue. Now, can you identify different sounds? Can you see that there are some words that are sounding and ending with the same sound and they are sounding the same? For example, red, dead, blue is rhyming with clue. So we can call this A. And is the next one rhyming with A with red? No. So we can call it B. Okay. Now, is the word dead rhyming with blue? No. It's rhyming with the word red. So I'll call it A again. And the word clue is rhyming with the word blue, which has a letter B. So we can call it B. So you can see that this is a 4-line poem and its rhyme scheme is A, B, A, B. This is the rhyme scheme of this 4-line poem. It's very easy. This is all about that. It's a pattern that we need to follow, students. Now, let's read this poem. It's called No Poverty by Jane Taylor. Now, after reading this, students, you have to be very much attentive, brace yourselves, read it with me, and as we are reading, try to focus on the rhythm and rhyme scheme of this poem. It has different stanzas. Now, let's read the first one. I saw an old cottage of clay, and only of mud was the floor. It was all falling into decay, and the snow drifted in at the door. Now, what's the rhyme scheme of this? Take a second, think about it. Okay, start with the first verse, with the first line, the last word, clay. Let's give it a name, an identification, A. And the next line, the word is floor, which is very different from the first word. So we will call it B. Decay is rhyming with clay. We will call it A. And door is rhyming with the word floor. We will call it B. So this is the rhyme scheme of the very first stanza of the poem No Poverty by Jane Taylor. So I hope, students, that you have understood it. Lukman, do you understand this? Now you know that how you can identify the rhyme scheme of any stanza. Now, let's continue reading it. Yet there a poor family dwelt in a hovel so dismal and rude. And though gnawing hunger they felt, they had not a morsel of food. Now, dwelt and felt. This is a new rhyming scheme. This is a new word and they will be called see. Okay. In a hovel so dismal and rude, they had not a morsel of food. Rude and food, they are rhyming. They are sounding the same, ending with the same kind of sound. We will call it D and D. All right. The children were crying for bread, and to their poor mother they'd run. Oh, give us some breakfast, they said. Alas, their poor mother had none. Okay, let's see. Now we are at A, B, C, D. And now, let's see. Food, bread, they are different, right? So we will name it E. We will name this one also E because bread and sad are rhyming. Run and none. We will call it F. So, as we are reading our stanzas, we are finding new words, new sounds. We are finding identical sounds, naming them with one particular letter so that we can make them identify. This is how you find a rhyme scheme of any poem, whether it's a couplet, whether it is a 4-line poem, whether it is poem with so many different stanzas. Moving on, she viewed them with looks of despair. She said, and I'm sure it was true, "'Tis not for myself that I care, but my poor little children for you." Now, we ended with F. Now let's begin with G, despair and care. True and you. Let's call it H. Now, the next stanza. Oh then, let the wealthy and gay but see such a hovel as this, that in a poor cottage of clay they may know what true misery is. And what I may have to bestow, I never will squander away, while many poor people I know around me are wretched as they. Now, let's see. We don't have anything here. Now, we will call it I. Gay and clay are matching. This and is. J, we will call it J. Now, bestow and know. K, away and they. Yeah. Or, there's another way, students. You can do the rhyme scheme with one stanza and do it, and then restart it with the next stanza. This is how you will make a very good rhyme scheme. You can either do the both ways. So here you can see that A, B, C, D. This is the rhyme scheme of the poem. Now, students, here are some different kinds of rhyme schemes that you need to know. Let's read them. These are alternate rhyme, which means one word, then another, then the same word, then another one. So A, B, they are alternating with one another. For example, the people along the sand, they turn their back on the land, all turn and look one way, they look at the sea all day. So, we can make A, B. So, the people along the sand all turn and look one way, they turn their back on the land, they look at the sea all day. So A, B, A, B. This is the alternating rhyme scheme. Here is a rhyme scheme of a ballad. And it is A, B, A, B, B, C, B, C. So if you name the letters with these, you can find this rhyme scheme. So if you want to write a ballad, this is the right rhyme scheme to follow with your poem. Here are coupled rhymes or the rhyming couplet. Couplet means there will be two verses in the poem. So long as man can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this and this gives life to thee. So C and thee, they have same rhyme and we will call it A and A. So the rhyming couplets or couplets having coupled rhyme, students, they have one letter rhyme scheme. Enclosed rhyme scheme is when you have the pattern A, B, B, A. Here A, B, B and A. So it is called enclosed because the second part, the second rhyme is enclosed between the first one. B and B is trapped and enclosed with A. So in this way, you can find it in John Milton's sonnets. You can find this rhyming scheme. It is called enclosed rhyme. So far we have seen coupled rhyme, enclosed rhyme and alternate rhyme and also rhyme of a ballad. Ballad is also a kind of a poem. Simple 4-line rhyme is A, B, C, B. This is an example from the Ancient Mariner by S.T. Coleridge. You can point out the rhyme scheme. Here is the pattern of this rhyme scheme. And now let's talk about a limerick, which is kind of a funny, non-serious poem. This is written for kids. Now, a limerick from the famous Mother Goose collection, Hickory Dickory Dock. I hope that you have read it in your childhood, students. You can see that it follows A, B, B, A rhyme scheme. This is a monorhyme having one consistent rhyme scheme with, and it does not have any alternate scheme. This is A. Air, dare, declare, despair. This is the rhyme scheme of such kind of poems. Now, Terza Rima is a poem, students. It is from a section of Percy Shelley's P.B. Shelley's Terza Rima, or To the West Wind. This was the name of the poem. You can see that this kind of pattern, this kind of rhythm, it is what we call Terza Rima. Now, here is a triplets rhyme scheme, villanelle rhyme scheme. So you can see that there are different kinds of rhyme schemes, depends upon the kind of poem you are reading and writing. Now, after talking about these different types of rhyme schemes and these patterns that you need to remember, you need to know the rhyme scheme of a couplet, a triplet, sonnet, ballad, terza rima, and all those that we just learned. Now, students, let's talk about figurative language. Yes, it is a kind of language that includes figures of speech. It means that you need to understand it. You do not take the figurative language as it is because its meaning is different from the literal meaning. So it means that we need to think about it and we need to make sense out of it in order to understand figurative language. Now let's see what makes a figurative language. A figurative language is language that contains or uses figures of speech. So in any text or in any poem, if you see figures of speech like simile, metaphor, personification, alliteration, etc., you can say that figurative language has been used in this poem or in this prose. Now, the figurative language includes simile, metaphor, personification, alliteration, idioms, hyperbole, and there are so much more. Now, you know that simile is about comparison. Let's see a comparison that is made between two things using the words like, as, or then. So this is how you identify a simile. Let's see. The boy swam through the water like a sleek dolphin, gracefully diving beneath the waves. So, like a sleek dolphin, he is comparing boy swimming with of a dolphins. So this is a comparison with the word like, as, or then. We can call it a simile. It is heavily used in poems. Now you have metaphor where you compare the person with anything directly. You make direct comparison, unlike simile where you use the word like or as. So students, I hope that now you get it. The friends were vibrant sunflowers, soaking up the golden rays of sunshine and blooming with laughter. So the writer, compared friends with sunflowers. This is a direct comparison, hence this is a metaphor. Personification. It means that you personify the non-living things, the inanimate objects, or the living things other than human beings, giving them human-like qualities. This will be called personification. For example, in the novel Animal Farm by George Orwell. Students, if you have read this, if not, then you must read it. It's a very important novel, and it's very easy to read also. There, in this novel, the human-like qualities are given to animals, like horse or so many different animals. They are personified as human beings. So this is an example. Now look, it's like giving human qualities to non-human things or objects. It can be an animal or any object, any inanimate object. The tall, common beech tree stretched its slender arms towards the sky, swaying in the breeze as if talking to the passing clouds. We know that trees do not stretch like humans. Trees don't have arms, rather they have branches. And trees don't talk. So we are giving the quality of stretching or of having arms and talking, which are human-like qualities that human beings possess. We are assigning them to a tree. This is an example of a personification. Now, hyperbole students is exaggeration, where we exaggerate. Let's see how we do it. Now, a saying exaggerated beyond belief to make a point, adding a comical aspect and excitement to writing. Let's read this and identify the hyperbole. The night sky was filled with so many stars that it looked like 1,000,000 sparkling diamonds were strewn across a velvet blanket. Now, the author sees the sky and said that it looks like 1,000,000 sparkling diamonds. Now, calling the stars diamonds and giving a number of millions or billions or trillions, this is exaggeration. We don't know the exact number. It could be lesser than we are thinking. So whenever we are exaggerating, whenever we are saying things more than they are, more than they deserve to be, this is simply an example of hyperbole. Now let's move on to the next slide. Okay, alliteration. When the same letter or sound occurs at the beginning of words, adding a musical quality to the phrase or sentence. This is when we call it alliteration. Let's see. The busy bees buzzed busily among the blooming blossoms. What is the sound that you keep on hearing again and again? The sound of B. Yes, very good. B. All these words starting with B, the sound B is an example of alliteration. So it gives you a sense of musicality. It is easy to remember. That's why poets use alliteration in their poetry, in their poems. So you can see that if you see something like this, the same sound repeating with every start of the word, with every beginning of the word, you can call it that the figure of speech alliteration is used over here. Yes. Now students, we have some examples over here. I need your attention in this one. Let's read it and put the right answer in the right place. The sun smiled down on the field of flowers. The sun smiled. No, human beings smile. The sun does not smile physically. So this is an example of metaphor. His voice was a velvet melody. This could be a metaphor too. The wind whispered secrets through the trees. Let's look at all these examples. Yes. Okay, so there was a mistake over here. The sun smiled down. This is a personification. His voice was a velvet melody. This is a metaphor because it is a direct comparison. The wind whispered secrets through the trees. Now, whispering is a human quality given to the wind. It is personification. His words cut like a knife. Like, we can call it simile. Her eyes sparkled like diamonds in the moonlight. Again, an indirect comparison is being made. It is a simile. Life is a journey, not a destination. Again, a direct comparison, and it is called a metaphor. So this way, you can identify the different figurative language used in a poem, students. Now, here you can take a screenshot. Yes, put me on screen. You can take a screenshot of this one and solve it. These are your idioms and idiomatic expressions, students. You have to understand that idioms are part of figurative language. It has a different kind of meaning other than the literal meaning, which is the definition of a figurative language. Now, students, here you can get this question bank. You can solve it. It has 10 different MCQs on rhyme scheme. It will test your understanding of the rhyme scheme and figurative language. All right. Yes, thank you so much for listening, students. I hope that now you have understood the students' learning outcomes, which we have covered. For the resources, I've added 2 different worksheets. You can access it in the resources. If you're watching on YouTube, you can get it from the description of the video, and you can go to Chase's Academy's YouTube channel and find it. Students who are sitting over here who've joined us online, you can get these resources along with the PPT. You can solve these 2 worksheets and also the question bank. And if you're having any kind of difficulty or problem understanding it, you can contact me straight away. You have to submit your answers before and the resources before we start our next video lesson. I'll see you in the next video lesson, students. I hope you have understood it. Do we have any kind of questions right now? Any problem or confusion about today's lesson on rhyme scheme, on figurative language? Thank you. Thank you so much. Take care of yourselves. Allah Hafiz.